guys are fast. Oh my God. All right, so you guys are getting it, right? Again, I cannot emphasize this. If you do not look at the Erickson in detail, it will likely to be 3 to 5 questions. I'm guessing here, okay? But Erickson, just like anything else that you see in your undergrad and you saw again on your school, it will be on your test. I don't even care what it is. If you saw in your undergrad nursing and you saw again on your master's or your doctor's degree, it is important. And that is Erickson's stage of development. Guys, please take the time. Memorize it early. Okay? Memorize it early, because if you don't, you might be losing 3 to 5 questions. Okay? One thing about Erickson, age matters. On the test, they should give you a age most of the time. This one didn't, right? Made it a little bit harder. But if you know middle school age, middle school children, 6 to 12, you would have known that tasks are important: academic, social, practical skills, friendship, right? These things are very important in the age group, more so than others, right? Please, please, please memorize Erickson, learn Erickson early. All right, next question, everyone. Okay. All right. Industry versus inferiority, right? Trust versus mistrust is early, very early, right? You know, we said 0 to 1, some books said 0 to 2. Intimacy versus isolation. Not quite. And then we have initiative versus guilt, industry versus inferiority, right? One way for you to not get confused is reading the question and answering before you look at the answers. That way, your mind is not going to be, oh, it is A or it is B. Okay. Please ask your question, please.
Yes. Hi. I was trying to say, yeah, yes, with the 6-year-old, yes, it is initiative versus guilt. However, the question said he doesn't trust anybody,
Yes.
not with his group, not to play with kids. At that age, kids already play with each other. They're good with social skills to an extent. So it's kind of confusing. So is he still struggling with the trust versus mistrust phase, which means he didn't develop that at the beginning of life, or is it this now? It's kind of
Yeah,
confusing.
no, you are right. So here you are absolutely right. So this question was a poorly written question because it said 6 years old. I know it's my team that put this one together, the Kahoot, because it takes a long time. But you are right. So the question was misleading, and we'll make a note of this question to correct on the question bank. It should give you the correct age. So your point is taken and is valid for sure. On the test, go by the age. Okay. All right. Let's go on. Irene, do you have a question on this one? All right. All right. Next question. All right. So the age is right. All right. So this one, if you remember me saying, think of a guy that's sitting down his porch and having a cup of coffee in the afternoon. He's 80 years old. He's looking back in life and say, "Gee, I really done everything. So I took care of my kids. I took care of business. I took chances in life. Some of them I failed, and some of them I did well. There is nothing that I should have done that I didn't do." Right. So there is no despair. On the other hand, if the old other person sitting down in the porch having a cup of coffee and looking back in life and says, "Man, life went by pretty fast, and it seems that I did everything wrong. So, my kids are not doing well. I don't have a job. I feel despair," right? So, anywhere on the question, 65 and older, integrity versus despair. You should immediately pick that answer. Okay. All right. Next question. Okay, initiative versus guilt, right? Let's take a look at the rationale here. Usually, the 5 years old up to 6, right? So it's right there at the cutting edge. So this stage is preschool years, developing a sense of purpose and the ability to initiate activities high yield, right? So in this case, initiate activities and the behaviors and hesitation, guilt relative to initiate play aligns perfectly with the characteristic of initiative versus guilt. Now, if it comes to the test and you really don't know, try to look at the answers and ask yourself, does the person feel guilt here? Or does the person initiate activity, right? And they could lead you to the right answer. But again, this is a default. We do not want to fall back on defaults, right? Or at least 99%, this is not how we prepare for a test. We prepare by knowledge, and then we can use these strategies when needed. But we go by knowledge. We prepare for knowledge. This is your war. This is your time to shine. Okay. Next question. Age is right. 'Right. 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 ' Remember, PAG, we don't go by age necessarily. Okay, even though the age was right, right? In PSG, we do not rely on age. What I mean by that is that could be questions in which it could be a borderline person and ask, hey, which stage of development, PhD stage of the development, did this person not fully master? And the person could be 35 years old and still could be sensory motor. We're not going to discuss the details since we did this in class, but hopefully you guys are all aware of this at this point, right? Now, it's likely that they'll give you an age. Just do not rely on age. It's just on this question, the age matched, but at PAG, we do not rely on age, okay, for the test. All right. Next question. Please mute your mic if you do, unless if you have a question. All right. So I'm super stoked to see that most of you guys got this right? Pre-operational, right? Pretend play is a big deal, right? In this age, just like playing, pretending to be a doctor, pretending to be a server, whatever might be the case. Pretending play 2 to 7 years old. Do not rely on age for PAG. Look at the description: symbolic thinking, language, and egocentric. Again, they see the world on their own views, right? So it's not that they don't care about others, is that's where they at, right? Egocentric. Now remember, there is parallel play on pre-operational, and there is also magical thinking, right? That we discussed in our previous class. Now, can someone tell me what the magical thinking is? It's different than parallel playing and is different than imaginary friends.
So mag,
If you
mag,
do unmute, go
magical
ahead, please.
thinking is like a little girl comes home and she said, "Oh, my mom is gonna buy me a doll, or I'm gonna get a doll," and 2 days later, her mom actually buy her a doll, not knowing what she was thinking. So in that case, she would
Perfect.
think it's magical thinking.
Yes. So basically, that the thoughts dictate the outcome, right? And in this case, it's harmless. But what if, oh, I wish that my mother dies, right? And the mother gets in a car accident. That would be extremely harmful for the kid, right? Until it's all fun and game would be great, but it could also be a negative connotation to that, okay? All right. Do not rely on magical thinking for this test. Please study. All right, next. All right. Or magical wish, right? Or wishful thinking. It says abstract thinking. When you hear abstract thinking, what do you pick? Yes, the code is 491238. I'll put in a meeting. 491238. The code is in a Google chat or chat box. All right, let's see if we can put in practice what we taught you about on the next lesson. I am super proud of you guys. Now, can anyone from, if you want to, explain why did you pick concrete operational? It can be any answer, and this is only if you want to.
I want to just click too fast.
Say it again.
We're just clicking too fast. That's not what I was picking.
Okay. All right, no problem. That happens all the time, right? Anybody else? I want to hear a mistake so we can correct it. You know.
I picked the correct answer because it said the hypothesis and the abstract thinking.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. But I was thinking the folks that pick concrete operational stage.
Oh, the wrong answer.
Yes. I'm more interested on the wrong answer here.
I read the question too fast and I totally missed the word hypothesis.
Okay, great. So you got that.
And I did it because I don't know why I was thinking something about the scientific. I don't know. Maybe I think I got that mixed up as far as like
yes.
I was looking for scientific. Like I think I got it mixed up. And I wanted to pick formal because I knew that comes with like more critical thinking and hard. It's like it's harder. Concrete was more, you know, I don't know. I didn't see science. I didn't see nothing about science. So I was just like, you know, so I second guessed myself. My first option was square, but I second guessed myself because of the science. I didn't see science. So I went with concrete.
So that's great.
I went with
Courtney.
concrete. I went with concrete as well because I second guessed myself.
Okay, so let's do this, guys. So these are very critical, and I'm sorry I'm taking a little bit of time, but this is more important than actually rushing through it, okay? When you read the question, never look at the answer. Now, concrete and formal, you will get it mixed up unless if you listen or understood what we said in the class. One way to separate concrete versus formal, you probably know the definition, is to know like, oh my God, which one comes first. The C is before the F. The F is the later stage, and that goes with hypothesis, critical thinking, or science project. F for formal. If you just do this mental note, it makes it a lot easier for you to pick on your test date 30 days from now, 60 days from now, 90 days from now. Just remember the F is later in the alphabet, and then you know that is the latest stage. All right. So hopefully this is helpful, and you know, and that is the reason why we are more interested on the wrong answer than we are on the correct answer. So we can find a way to associate it and make the mistake here today with us. Do not make the mistake on a test. Very helpful, right? If you remember Mrs., I'm not going to say her name, just not to call her out, but she said it to the whole class. I failed the test, I don't know if it was 5, 6 times. And what we did for her, she had taken 3 courses and failed 4 times. And this was her 5th times testing. It was not a lack of knowledge because actually she's pretty smart and she knew a lot, but she was adding to the questions. She was advancing and picking an answer and rationalize it and making herself self-guess, right? I did a lot of exercise with her individually, and she was able to self-correct, and she actually passed the board, I believe, a week ago. Right? So this is important. When you get it wrong, it's more important than when you get it right. Okay. Next question.
Actually.
All right, so I trust that some of you guys picked this incorrectly because you were too fast. Is anyone still stuck on concrete versus formal operational stage? Please speak up. You know, it's to help you. I have no interest on anything else.
Yeah, can you just explain in detail, like what exactly with concrete makes it different from formal? I get, I understand, like the
Thank
formal is
you.
more detailed, like it's more like okay, hypothesis and understanding like scientific facts and things like that. But what exactly is like a big difference between the two?
Right. So you hit the right chord. It says physical. I can't go back, but I think it had said something about science or what was the name of it?
It
Physical.
said
No,
physics. It was
physics. It said physics, right? So right away, I didn't even need to read the rest of the question. Physics is a higher level of thinking, right? And then went on to just talk about hypothesis and abstract thinking, I believe, or something along those lines. I don't remember the question right now. So that is the later part. Now, when we look at concrete, so we got to think about, you know, math problems. We got to think about someone that's able to rationalize, able to see if I get a glass full of ice and the glass is this tall and I put it in this, you know, I'm gonna say 200 mLs and I put into this cup, which is a lot shorter, it doesn't matter. 200 mLs, 200 mLs. Also, if I get water and put in a freezer and make cubes of ice, it changes the form, but it's still H2O. If I take out of the refrigerator, it's going to be water again. So do you have the concrete thing? They are able to rationalize things, but they are unable to go beyond of the basics of, think of it, what would a 12 to I don't want to go in the age here, what would a 7 to 12 years old think? They would be able to read, they would be able to do math, they would be able to kind of like make assumptions. Maybe we need food because we don't have food at home, but they wouldn't be able to, you know, make the connection like, hey, we have just my mom and dad needs to be working hard all night to pay mortgage, and complex thinking they would not be able to do. And one way to separate formal from concrete, as the formal is the later stage, right? And think of the F and the C. This will help you a lot. It's easy now because we are talking about it. It's easy now because we talked about 2 days ago. But 30 days from now, some of you guys might make this mistake, and that's why we're having this class today. Okay. Hopefully that's helpful. If it's not, I can give you other examples on this topic. All right. Next question.
Let's see.
Remember, I cannot give you a full answer here, okay? Okay, automatically, right? When you hear CBT, right? We talked about cognitive therapy, we talked about behavior therapy, and we talked about marrying both together, right? So when this cognitive therapy alone, it's all about the converting the irrational thinking with positive facts and reality, right? So when we talked about behavior therapy, is doing something, role playing, modeling, right? That is doing something. When we do CBT, we marry cognitive and the behavior therapy, and we marry them together and we apply those two principles into one, right? So when do CBT, it really targets the maladaptive patterns and behavior to help someone overcome depression, anxiety. Now, there is something about generalized anxiety that I always talked about. On your test, it will never give you a full description, never. Very confident. Will never give you a full description to make a diagnose like you would for the DSM-5. What I mean by that? Let's say the question is about major depressive disorder. So you would need 5 symptoms over 2 weeks and tons of criteria. The test will never give you that. Never. It will give you 3 symptoms over 2 weeks, and you cannot take that and say, this is not major depressive disorder because it does not meet the criteria. At the end of your question, it will say, what is the most likely diagnosis? And give you 4 answers that you pick from, right? That's the first point. The second point is the most important one. There is an exception to this rule. In order to be generalized anxiety disorder, what must the test say?
Over 6 months?
6 months.
Over, yeah, 6 months. Because there are many anxiety disorders, and if it does not tell you the 6 months, it is unlikely to be generalized anxiety. Okay, so that is that one exception that I always see it with generalized anxiety disorder. All the test books answers in general will say 6 months. Notice that. Make that point. Okay.
But doctor, for generalized anxiety disorder, the patient should have the symptoms for 6 months, to my understanding, right?
Yes, it should have a symptoms for 6 months. And so it's nothing but over worrying about everything. Is sleeping at midnight and think, oh my God, where's my birth certificate? Oh my God, is my phone gonna ring? Oh my God, do I have to get out? Overthinking excessively. We all do at some point when we're stressed, when we have a new job, when we have a new situation, when we're gonna do a new presentation. It's normal. However, it's not normal that you live with extra worries for that long period of time. If they do, it's likely that they would need therapy or medication. Okay. All right. Next question. Please mute your mic, kindly. Thank you, ma'am. Jacqueline, your mic, please. Oh, no, sorry guys. So my apologies. This was keyed in incorrectly. No. Oh, exposure therapy. Sorry, the colors are messing me up here. Yes, it should be cognitive restructuring. So my apologies, this was keyed in incorrectly, right?
I was gonna say I am
Yeah, yeah.
like doing terrible. I'm running out of time.
No,
I don't
no,
have
no.
30
So
more
Exactly. I was like, oh no.
minutes.
no, that one
Can I get
person
my
here.
points back?
Yeah, that one person here is gonna get that 1 point. Like exposure therapy. So let's talk about exposure therapy since we are here. What is exposure therapy and what's good for?
So exposure therapy is like
It's for PTSD, isn't it?
so for example,
Yeah.
OCD.
No, well, it could too. I'm not gonna say no, but mainly
Therapy is for
yes,
someone that has
PTSD, right?
phobia.
So
And
go ahead.
MD, yeah, EMDR. It reminds me, like it makes me think of EMDR.
Oh, okay, I like that. I
It's
like that.
EMDR and
Exposure
social
therapy,
therapy. Yes.
also
Sometimes
yeah,
CBT.
sometimes CBT. So let me give
Yes.
you an example of that, right? Exposure therapy. I did a little research, part of it, or in which one of the goals was to take the veterans back to Iraq, of course, in a safe environment. There is safe environment in Iraq too, okay? If you wonder. So why? Well, so they can get accustomed to exposed to the events and also relive. Sure, we wouldn't say here you're a plane ticket, you go, right? So this is a long towards the end. Then they would go back and relive some of the incidents and be able to cope with with what they have. Now, coping. EMDR. What is the goal of EMDR in general?
It's like to help them. I think it's like to help them desensitize whatever whatever traumatic experience that they
Yeah.
possibly had. I think that's what like by. I know it's like a little bit of eye to it, like it's something with the eyes or something with it's
Okay.
something like that.
Oh, all right. So, but there is something that's very, very important that we mentioned. You need to know. Helps unstick.
Like rewire the brain from the
Okay.
traumatic
Ooh,
experience.
somebody said it there in the comment.
Is to achieve adaptive
Adaptive
resolution.
resolution. Make a note of that. Adaptive resolution is the goal of EMDR. Okay, that is high yield, and this is why we are mentioning it. Okay, high yield. Adaptive resolution is the goal of EMDR. Now, since we're talking about goals, so let's just go a little bit further. What is the goal, or the one thing that I said in class that for family system? Well, we're gonna wait for that because there will be a question on that. So we're gonna wait. So next question. I don't want to jump the gun and take the pleasure out of you guys. Let's wait. It's a hard question, right? All right. This was a hard question, right? What other therapies can we use for OCD? Anybody remember? What is the CBT? That is the gold standard for OCD. However, exposure and response prevention is highly effective for OCD. I would make a note of that. Okay, so basically includes exposing the patient to the anxiety provoking situation, like all the stimuli and redoing it. So it's similar to the same case of PTSD, right? Re-exposing them until they can see, well, if I don't wash my hands, nothing happens. So why am I worrying about the washing hand every day, right? Now, when it comes to OCD, you gotta know what is the obsessive portion of the OCD, right? And you have to know what, the obsession, and you have to know the thoughts is the obsession. Very good. So what would be the other part?
The behavior, the action.
The
The
compulsion.
behavior. The behavior. Compulsion, right? So the compulsion is the behavior. So the washing the hand is the behavior, the compulsion, right? And the OCD is the thinking, oh my God, I'm going to die if I don't wash my hands because the microbes going to be all over my hands and blah, 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 right? I'm exaggerating, but to make a note of that, you need to know the two parts and the two difference, okay? All right, 1 second. I trust 100% you will get this question right. Hopefully. All right, we're close to 100%, not quite there, all right? Yeah, so when we talked about borderline, right, immediately you gotta think dialectical behavior therapy, and immediately Marshall Lineham gotta pop up in your head, right? Because who is Marshall Lineham? Is the person that created DBT, right? And she's wonderful. We had meetings, been training, so it's actually she has a course coming up in July if anyone's interested. It's long, okay, and it's very restrictive. But anyways, the point is you gotta know what DBT is, you gotta know who Marshall Lineham is, and you got to know what is the goal of DBT. Anybody remember?
Reduce suicidality?
Yes.
Yeah, decrease suicide.
Increase it.
Decrease, right?
What's up?
Decrease self-harm
No,
behavior.
we need a look. We in this stupid
Guys,
meeting to work. I mean, in a look.
You may have please
Not necessarily, but maybe a meeting. But it's
guys,
all
be
right.
mindful of your
Jacqueline, your mic is on.
Hold on,
Jackie.
yeah, be mindful of your mic, everyone, please.
You
So
never
the
get
way
it?
we
No, young
All
it's
right,
like a
so I
picture
may
or something you
have
take. It's not a link. But it was a link when you click on it, you could have.
Yeah, but all you have to do is just
1
put it in
second,
your
guys,
browser
sorry.
site.
Huh?
All you have to do is just put in your browser. Let me show you that. Let me get a
Guys, be mindful of your mics. It's just to that way we're not hearing your conversation and you're safe. All right, next question. All right, so we could do process of elimination here, right? We could say, okay, CBT, restructuring of the brain. Then we go DBT, not a borderline patient here, and psychoanalytic. It didn't say anything about rewiring the brain due to our unconscious mind. And then we would arrive to humanistic therapy. However, there was something in the question that said struggling with self actualization. Only human for humanistic or person-centered therapy. Carl Roger. You need to know this name, Carl Roger. Humanistic therapy slash person-centered therapy, right? Only humans can achieve self-actualization, self-growth, right? It can be used for depression, obviously. All right, next question. Tricky question, huh? All right. So what's tricky about it, right? We said humanistic, only humans can achieve self growth, self actualization, right? And oftentimes, humanistic and client centered, patient centered therapy, it's almost the same thing. Okay. So when you remember Carl Rogers, think of a patient centered therapy. Okay. And think about, here you go, Carl Rogers, right? He is really under the bigger umbrella, which is called humanistic, right? And is supportive and non-judgment. Is such a good therapy for the therapist. There is no note taking. We just listen, agree, disagree, talk about a few things, but there is no note. I would love a job like that. I don't stay in the office until midnight trying to type my notes.
Doctor, why can it be just all?
Well, it could be just all, but this was very much talking about person-centered therapy. This one's very much talking about self-actualization. It was giving you strong cues. This is person-centered therapy. Just all, it is a valid answer that it falls under humanistic therapy. When we think about just how, think of a global, the person entire life or human being, right? Now, Carl Rogers is more specific about the client. What do you want to be? How can we help you achieve your bigger or biggest goals and desires in life? Okay, it's a little bit different. Carl Rogers would be the best answer.
How sorry.
Sorry, I can't stop now, but we'll think about this in the next one. All right. So we are not going to talk about the person's unconscious mind. We're talking about here is why is my life is this way, right? Which would be called existential therapy. And what did I say about existential therapy? We do confrontation in a good way, right? We do challenge the patient a little bit to think a little bit more about freedom and responsibility, assuming where they are, maybe because of some of their choices, right? Existential therapy does that. Now, it's not like you are a, no, right? It's what do you think it led to the outcome that you are currently living? Is there anything that you could think of that you participated? Oh yeah, I hear the economy went bad, and I hear X, Y, and Z happened. That is outside your control. What part do you play on your current situation? Can we work on that? It's very different, right? I'm not being judgmental, but I'm also confronting without attacking. That is existential therapy. Now, existential therapy is very helpful for those with terminal conditions, for those that are very suicidal as well, sometimes, right? What's the meaning of life? And freedom and responsibility are the key words that you know about existential therapy. Yay, almost 100%. That's good. We're close. We're getting there. It can be CBT as well, right? So it wouldn't be incorrect, but for the test, you will pick EMDR, right? For PTSD. Now, can we just kind of like do a little play here? In a sense, there was someone that asked about Gestalt, right? Let's talk about Gestalt and do a little play. Imagine, I don't know if you can see this. Imagine you see this bear. Can you guys see a bear? I'm sorry, embarrassing. I have a cup that has a bear. All right. But anyways, instead of, let's say this is Gestalt, right? Instead of saying, hey, look at the picture, but instead of seeing the lines and color, Gestalt encourage you to really see the whole picture. Like what is under? It says fundus bear. Oh my God, that's so embarrassed. But here we go. What the bear looks like around it. Instead of just saying it's a bear, we encourage you to look at the whole picture. So we would say things in this way. For example, what's happening now? Instead of dwelling on the passing, so it is a present focus. We would say things like, what are you experiencing now to bring the person to the present? Like, beware of your senses. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you smell? How does it feel right now? We would say ownership, right, is also part of Gestalt. Like, for example, it helps you realize that you are an active participant in life and that you have the power to make choices and change behaviors, right? Less about blaming others, about external circumstances, but more about how did you play a role in this situation? Help me understand you better. I'm putting back on me, like right? Help me understand you. But it's also confrontational, right? How did you come? How did you arrive to this situation? And there is also something called unfinished business. What is the unfinished business, by the way? So sometimes the past experiences and emotions that get people stuck, right? And prevent them from fully living in the present. What is in your life today that's holding you back? Is there a grudge on somebody? You know, Gestalt therapy helps you identify and really resolve those unfinished business, right? Issues that prevent you from moving on and being in the present, not the past. The past are those that are constantly in depression. In the future are those that are constantly worrying excessively, right? We all do live in the past and we all do live in the future. We just don't want to be excessive, right? So if you think of this way of becoming more aware, more authentic, present, taking responsibilities for your choices, right? It's a very essential. Also involves techniques like role playing. Sometimes we do you're going to talk to your boss. What are you going to tell your boss? You want a raise. So let's pretend I'm your boss. What would you say? How would you come to me? What would be your presentation? What is the points that you want to present to me to dictate to help me understand why you need a raise? So these are important points for Gestalt, if you may. So hopefully that helps you a little bit. Gestalt is the whole person, right? Look at the whole situation. Go ahead. Your name disappear. I think it was Luigi or starts with an L. I'm sorry.
Luigi.
Luigi. Okay, what is your question there?
It's not a question, neither. Do you realize that the point they're not seen on the screen? They used to be seen on the screen when we play.
Oh, the points. Yes. So now I didn't even realize that. Well, I'm trying a new type of Kahoot. That's why you're not seeing the points. But yes, a good good observation for sure. You know, we are missing who's leading the pack here. Hopefully it will
ain't me.
show.
It is not
Okay.
me.
But if it's not you today, it will be you tomorrow. Okay. So your constant state is only dependent on the effort that you put in, right? So we all been last in life, all of us. And we move according to what we do or don't do. So there is lots of help. Okay. So hopefully that's helpful. All right. So anyway.
Excuse me. I'm so sorry. Just a real quick question. EMDR is strictly face-to-face therapy, correct? Or maybe telehealth.
Yeah, it should never be. It should never be telehealth. Let's talk about that because it is. You hit the important core, very important.
Okay.
Can I do EMDR on telehealth? Yes, I can do whatever I want. Is that the right thing? No, it's not. What is the problem here? The problem is not even the light. The problem is not even the movement. You are dealing with someone that has been traumatized. Let's think about rape. That's really traumatizing. Let's think about seeing your brother or your mother being shot. I mean, I cannot even think of how bad that would be, right? When you're doing EMDR, they will decompensate. And what's important for the test is what is your action? What will you do when you're decompensating? Anybody? That will be on your test. Yeah, that's pretty blank. That's not where you are because you are the cream of the crop. You will be a PMHNP. We need a little bit more depth to this.
Have them come back or just help them with what's going on in that scenario and tell them it's okay and move forward.
Grounding is where the answer lies, right? So you are likely, very, very likely to get a question where a patient decompensates. So what do? Put your feet on the ground, reassure them that they are safe. Take a deep breath. You are here. So you reassure them, bring them to the present open your eyes, look where you are. You are no longer in that situation. So you bring them to the present. Okay, so that's why EMDR and mindfulness is very helpful, especially bringing them to the present. Okay, all right, next question. My pleasure. Okay, so when we hear psychodynamic, automatically we say unconscious mind. The reason why you are leaving this situation is due to the unconscious mind. So the goal is to bring the unconscious, which the patient is not aware of, to conscious. So that is the answer. Please never answer a question. Answer the question first before looking the answer. That will prevent you from being convinced of a different answer. If you said unconscious mind, psychoanalytic, you would immediately arrive to exploring the unconscious conflict and early life experience. Okay? So be careful. Be careful. And guys, being wrong is the best part. Getting wrong is the best part. If you get it right, you may even forget doing the test, unfortunately. Right? Hopefully not. Let's cross our fingers. But when you get things incorrect, there is a lesson to be learned, right? Or something strikes you differently, that you will keep the information. All right, next question. So we read family system therapy. Immediately we think about the 3 things we learned about without even looking at the answers. Do process of elimination too. Okay, very nice, guys. Super proud of you. You know, you guys did really, really good on this question because it wasn't necessarily jump right at you. But if you reverse to the 3 things, the family system therapy that we learned in class, you would have got this answer correct. Oh, I'm so sorry. I was too fast here. My apologies. And now I'm too slow. All right. So here you go. Self-differentiation. I didn't want to spoil earlier on. Can someone tell me 3 things about family system therapy? 3 things that jump to mind right immediately. Anyone? Okay.
Triangulation.
Self-differentiation.
Triangulation.
Triangulation. The other one's perfect. Perfect. Immediately. And we said the core of family system therapy is self-differentiation. So what is self-differentiation? Please give me the answer.
Recognizing that each person in the family is unique with their own thoughts and beliefs and emotions.
Perfect. Perfect. Now, since you answered that, I don't know, this is a hard question, but who is known as the father, if there is such a thing, of family system therapy?
Is it Bowens?
Perfect. Yeah. Dr. Murray, Murray, Bowen. I just call him Bowen, just almost like the airplane. That helps me remember. Hey, whatever helps you to remember, right? So, yeah. What do you need to know about family system therapy? Who created the 3 things you need to know is self-differentiation, triangles and triangulations, and genogram, less high yield. Now, the one thing that we need
Genograms?
Genograms is good to know. It's part of it, but it's much less high yield than triangles and triangulation. Now, what do we talk about triangles? Is it good, bad, good, indifferent? You know, it can be good, right?
It can be good.
It can be good, can be bad, depends how it is used. Now, what you need to know is the questions often will say, blah, 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 helps to reduce stress. That is the key word, helps to reduce stress, and the answer will be triangle and triangulation. Got it? Because in this connotation, whatever the question is, I don't even care. It comes with which part of family therapy and it gives you a scenario that this long looks like a book. I don't care. If it says helps to reduce stress, they are looking for triangles. Why? Because 90% of you guys learned that triangle is bad. Right. And then we know that triangulations can be a good thing. Now, it can only be a good thing when the person that's in the triangle is actually doing something good for the patients or for the couples or for the family, right? It can be good when I am the third person and I am the triangle and I'll help the husband and the wife get along and move the communication, bring the stress to me, and I'll try to alleviate, bring clarity to the session. That can be good. Can be horrible if they are using the 7 years old because mom and dad don't want to talk, right? That can be horrible, but triangles serves to decrease the distress, helps, yeah, helps with that. So please make a note of that because that is a huge trap. It's a huge trap. A lot of people don't know that, right? So make a note of that. Mavis, I believe you have a question.
Yes, you were given an example of a keyword to help you to remember triangulation. I was just, can you repeat that?
Yeah, so oftentimes questions involve triangle and triangulations goes into a bad connotation. It's a bad thing, and that is a trap. So if the question says husbands and wife, they're not talking to each other, blah, 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 and which of the options below would help to decrease the distress?
Oh.
Put it blank, right? Like it doesn't even seem to be triangle and triangulation. But I promise you, the underline here is that triangles can be a good thing. Because most books or schools actually teach triangle as a bad thing. Okay? Now, it can be good when I am the third person. That's why it's a triangle. I cannot even make a triangle. Here we go. Inverted triangle. I am the triangle, right? So bring the distress to me between the husband and the wife. so we can all have a beautiful life, right? So the point is, can be good and can serve to decrease the distress. That is all what I want to point out. Okay. Now,
Oh, one last question. With
yes.
family structural therapy, is there a theorist that's associated that might be
Oh
on
yeah.
the
Yes. No, it is not high yield. I would not even know that, but we can cover that if you like. But we don't. It's not high yield because we don't want to know everybody's. We want to know Marshall Laham. We want to know Carl Rogers. We want to know Bowen. We want to know who else? Who else pop in your mind? Well, you know, the main one: Piaget, Theodore, Erickson. What else?
Aaron Beck.
Aaron Beck. Aaron Beck. Yes, Aaron Beck is super high yield. Thank you. I forgot about Aaron Beck.
Yalom.
Yalom. Yeah, we want to know Yalom. Group therapy is the father of group therapy. What else? You know, the others not super high yield. But if I remember another one, we can talk about it. All right, next question.
I have a question real quick.
Please,
what
go ahead.
Was the three? You said self-differentiation, triangulation, and then genome, or whatever was the third one?
That's it. That's three.
Okay.
But no. Oh, yes. Thank you for reminding me. This is a super high yield. What is the goal? Queen, I think it was you that was in a mic, so I'll just ask you if I may. What is the goal of family system therapy?
Honestly, I haven't got to my module 4 yet, so I'm not sure.
No problem. So
Yeah.
I wanted to bring this up because it's also very high yield. There are a few things that we want to know the goal of, and family therapy is the goal is to bring self-differentiation.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to make that a highlight point. So thank you for that, for helping me kind of anchor the rationales here. Okay, Irene, please go ahead.
So I do get it very well on the triangulation, self-differentiation, but I don't get the third one. Maybe give an example.
Yes, genogram is not that a high yield, but genogram is nothing but a map. Who is in the family? The mother, the father, who is in charge? Who's calling the shots? What is the other person doing? You know, are they two of them trying to call the shots all the time, and that's why there is a spark, right? So basically, it's a map of who's in the family and where they at and what roles do they play in the family, right? When we have, that's a great point. And it works really for all. When we don't have boundaries, we step on each other's toes because we don't know, is it okay? Is it not okay? Can I push the limit, right? But when we know the limits, it helps. Hey, you know, I don't like to be called this way. Don't call me this way, right? If we set the limits, the other person know not to do it. If they do it, then there is actions, right? All right, we'll keep on going here. Hopefully that helps. Next question.
It did. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, restructuring family roles and boundaries, right? We actually talked about boundaries. Okay, so restructuring the family roles and boundaries. So when we talked about structural family therapy, is identifying or reorganizing the family roles, boundaries, and hierarchy. So the three things immediately that we put on our white piece of paper during class, three things for each therapy, and we said boundaries, reframing, right? And what else? Hierarchies, right? If we think role playing, sure, yeah, role playing. But if we want to pick three things, structure is like the military. I put it this way: there is maps, right? There is boundaries, and there is the maps and the hierarchies, right? And hierarchies, right? So it's very helpful if you can write it down in a piece of paper, three of the things that are for each of those therapies, and those questions become so easy after a while. Okay, Mavis, yeah, genogram, hierarchies, and boundaries, right? So I don't know if I have someone asked a question about main points about, I think it was solution focused therapy. I kind of want to talk about it a little bit to help some people. So whoever asks about solution, if you want to unmute your mic and give me a little synapse of what you remember. If not, I can go ahead and kind of break this down for you. Okay, I take it that you may not want to talk. Got it. Solution. What is the solution of the problem, right? So that answers the question of solution focused therapy. I'm looking for a solution, not the reason of the problem, right? So basically, I'm looking to see what have you done in the past when you were in similar situation. For example, oh, Dr. Lopes, I'm so stressed. This test is overwhelming and X, Y, and Z, right? I would say, what is the hardest class you have taken before? And how did you overcome that, right? So basically, the client is the expert. I don't have to tell them you need to study X, Y, and Z, but I have to bring this back. I'm looking for a solution that worked for you in the past so we can reuse it, not reinvent the wheel, and we can make the preparing for this test a breeze, right? So it is future oriented, right? And also emphasize small changes leads to big results. So your class, physics, let's call it physics, it was the hardest class you take. And what did you do? I study every day. Do you feel that studying every day led to bigger results? Even though it didn't feel that way, but a little bit at a time, it brings up this whole bag of knowledge, right? So we want to be brief, we want to be collaborative, and we want to make, good choices. And what are the three things that we want to talk about immediately when we say solution-focused therapy? Sure, we're looking for the solution, something that worked in the past so that it works in the future. But three things that we want to talk about from solution-focused therapy. Anybody remember?
Miracle question.
Miracle question.
What else?
Scaling questions.
Scaling?
Exceptional question.
All right. Miracle question, right? So three things about solution. I'm looking for a solution. Miracle question. This is perhaps the most famous technique on solution-focused therapy, right? So the therapist may say, hey, if a miracle happened tonight while you were sleeping, and when you wake up, the problem was gone, how would you know the problem was gone? What would be different in your life? This helps the client envision the desired future in a concrete way, outline a solved problems that would otherwise be hard to see, right? So for example here, pressing the board is hard, sure. What do you have to gain? What would be your future like if you were already board certified? How would you feel? Right? And we can say exception question, which is number 2, right? Exception question. this question really helps the patient kind of like identify when the problem was not present. It's different than miracle. What if this problem wasn't here? How would you feel? Exception question, it helps you. Do you remember a time that you got all A's, right? There wasn't a problem with studying, right? Helps the client identify the time when the problem was not present. So it was less severe. So what does it do, right? So tell me about a time when you almost had this problem, but you didn't. How did you overcome that? How did you study? What is it that you're doing today that is different than when you achieved your success? Right? So when do you feel even a little bit better? When is the problem not bothering you as much? Right? Things like that. Exception. The problem is not here. Right? We'll look in the past for a solution. And scaling of yours, I'm not going to bore you to death. Scaling from 0 to 10, how bad is it right now? Right? How would you feel if this problem was here? Would you feel like a 10? Also helps envision a future without the problem. Okay. Hopefully I don't have a question here about solutions, so that the way, oh, maybe I do. I don't know. I don't remember. So many questions. So next question. Now look at the answers. Read the question and think about it. All right. So MST, right? Why we even go there, right? We go there to address the problem, give tools to the family so they can get a hold of the behavior, right? So we want to address the adolescent's behaviors problem within the context of mood system, within the context of MST, mood systemic family therapy. If you think of that, you'd say immediately, right? That is for adolescent 12 to 17 with behavior problems. And what is the goal? Identifying solutions, resources, not solution, resources for the family to deal with the adolescent, right? So make a note of that. Guys, if it's in a course, you may see on your test. Okay, so we don't waste time with herbs, 50 different types of herbs. We maybe talk about 3 or 4, right? Mavis, what is your question?
So I was just wondering, why is it titled multi-system therapy?
Oh, you got me on this one. I have no idea, but I can tell you why. I mean, this is a wild guess. I don't know why the name is that. It's because it's used with different tools. They use mindfulness, they use community, they use many tools to help the family address the behaviors. Otherwise, they might become what? Antisocials, right? I mean, okay, so it's many tools to help the family within the context of a multi-system. Again, this is an educated guess. I do not know.
It sounds right. I'll use it.
If you ask me something that I don't know, I will tell you exactly what it, that I don't know. There is no sugarcoating with me. But yeah, But let me know if that's right. I'm just saying that there is many tools that helps the family, so it goes well with the name. I just don't know. I haven't seen a research or a book that said that question before.
Well, I know, like on one of the last answers under D, you had stated MST focuses on addressing behavioral issues within multiple systems. So you got to think he's in drugs. He has behavioral issues. Medication might be part. So you're doing a multi-level system. So that's kind of how I think of it.
That's a beautiful way of thinking in this way as well. All right, next question. I missed the ranks and the little noise here, but maybe next time I'll do that screen. Oh, solution-focused therapy. This can be tricky.
Yeah, I could be that family. Remember to share the success and action.
But we answered this question in a different way, right?
No.
Right. So it can be tricky, right? But how do we know helps the family envision a future when the problem
is no longer there?
Yeah, us resolved. What is that called? Well, you can call it two ways, but I think it's more towards exception questions, right? So it helps the family identify the times when the problem was not present or less severe. But you could also make the point that, hey, you know, do you remember time that the problem was not there? It was a miracle. You woke up and the problem wasn't there. But that description that is giving for the answer, it goes along with exception question, right? Helps the client, the patient, to really identify a time when the problem was not present. So what this question did is, instead of saying simplistically, that's a good lesson. Which of the following tools could be used on family system, solution-focused therapy? And then you put that exception question, right? But what if I put the rationale of what an exception question is and asking you about the solution focus? It's the same thing, but this is a great question because it tells you have to use your brain with the knowledge that we give you. You cannot be like a 12 years old and be like, 3 things, exception question, and not know what that is, right? So the question, the board will be like this. They may not say straight up exception question, because if they did, even a high schooler could pass because it would be straight memorization. Who else has a question there? Irene, I believe. Go ahead, please unmute your mic.
I was just gonna say the answer seemed like the answer to the miracle question, but miracle answer.
Yeah, like I said, there could be like a miracle answer. I tend to think this is more like exception, but is definitely a valid, is in between both, right? Who else have raised your hand there? Okay, nobody? All right, next question. Oh, here you go. It says, hey, miracle question is a technique used in family-focused therapy. Encourage the clients to imagine the future in which the problem has improved or been resolved, right? The difference is, like, if the problem wasn't there versus saying, hey, when was a time where the problem was not present in your life in the past? In the miracle will be more like, when is the time the problem was not, what would be like if the problem wasn't present today? Subtle difference, right? But hey, that works. All right, next question. Oh, here you go, a miracle question, right? Let's get 100% since we talked about solution-focused therapy. All right, miracle question. If all your problems disappear overnight, how would you feel? How would the family be, right? So we got almost 100%, but we're getting there, okay? Practice, practice, practice. If anybody that got it wrong want to speak about it so we can make rational correction, we can. Otherwise, we can just keep on moving, okay? Guys, if you don't know this, I highly advise you to take the class, look at the PDF, write down some questions. The board will be hard, but most of you guys will be very well prepared. We'll never be 100%, and you don't want to be 100%. Why not, Dr. Lopes? Because 100% will take 3 years, 4 years of study. We don't want to be that. We want to be at 90% of what matters. The substance, the topics that matters. We want to be very good at it, right? We don't want to memorize 50 herbs. We can give that question away to the test makers. We don't care if we miss one, as long as we get the others, but we're not aiming for 175 questions correct. We are aiming to pass is 70%. So let's really understand the content that is in a course. Leave no rocks unturned. Do it every day. Do it daily. Ask questions. Email me, right? Because we're going to do this once, and that's it, right? We're not going to do this twice. We do it once, well done, and we don't have to repeat it, okay?
Dr. Lopes.
Yes.
Can you please elaborate more on this miracle question? Because I think I'm getting it.
Okay, no problem. We can talk about miracle questions. So this really is the core of solution. If you had to ask me one thing, it would be miracle question, right? So the therapist asks, if a miracle happened tonight while you were sleeping, and in the morning when you wake up, the problem was solved, how would you feel? So basically, I'm going to the future saying, hey, if this problem was not here, how will your life would be different? Let's put in different contexts. If you were already board certified today, so the problem of taking the board is no longer here, what would you do? Oh, I would start looking for a job and I want to work with substance use. So this helps the person envision the desired future in a concrete terms, outline what has been solved, right? So what's been solved? The board exam is no longer here. Problem that would likely to help you create patterns to solve the problem, right? Like, so it helps you in the future. Now, when we look at exception questions, we say things like, do you remember a time when the problem was not present, less severe? You have been a great student. You showed me that your report cards, you got A's all over the place. What you do then? Right? So tell me about the time when you almost didn't have this problem. So that is more likely in the future, miracle, more like in the past, exception questions. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
But you have to know solution, miracle questions, exception question, and scaling. That is the core of solution. And then knowing that we're looking for a solution, something in the present, in the past to solve something in the present, right? All right, next question.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Setting
Okay.
goal also.
Sorry. It's gonna be hard, okay? Very hard, right? Very hard. So first thing, strategic. We think about equals to directives. What kind of directives? Straightforward, metaphors, and paradoxal, right? So here, the intent was to kind of address the son's behaviors, right? So analyzing the paradoxal directives to describe the some problematic behaviors as a solution. Basically here, we're looking at the paradoxal directives to pretty much see the symptoms and the problematic behaviors as a solution to disrupt the family patterns, right? When we do this, we really wanted to kind of like see what is now working and kind of provoke a resistance from the family. So think of this way. The easiest way to describe paradoxal directive. If you are working with a client that's stubborn and will never do what you ask, carefully and strategically, you give him a opposed direction, knowing that he will not follow and he will actually do what you're asking them, oppose of what you're asking them to do, right? So a bit confusing of the question here because it talks about the family and the son. I get it why it was confusing, right? But the core here that we want to talk about is strategic family therapy. Three things: paradoxal, directives, straightforward directives. We can also say metaphors, reframing. But if you want to call three, reframing would be the third one, okay? All right, let's go ahead and keep on moving. Okay. Oh, actually, I said reframing the previous question, so that made it maybe slightly easy. But let's discuss a little bit about strategic. It was strategic family therapy. If you think of this way, right, we want to look for an effective approach to work with the families. You want to be very pragmatic. You want to be action oriented relative to a short-term therapy that focus on how the family interacts and keeps the problem going rather than deeply solving the problem. So what we're going to do, right? We're going to identify and interrupt the dysfunctional patterns of interaction. So within the family, that there is a problem, and we do this by using three main points: strategic equals to directives, right? So we want to do directives, straightforward directives. We want to do brief problem solving techniques. We want to do paradoxal for those that we know will not follow the directions that we are trying to cover, and reframing, presenting the problem in a different way, right? So please go ahead, ask the question if you have one.
Dr. Thales, it says use straightforward. So I chose straightforward because of the straightforward word. So how, I guess my,
Yeah. I would have to kind of, okay. Anybody wants to answer the question why you pick reframing instead of the client to of negative?
I also picked straightforward, but when I look back on it, I was like maybe I shouldn't have, because it was kind of not like aggressive, but it was kind of like not gentle. Like, you know, it was like you straightforward directive to specific to ensure they will follow up. Like, I think that, you know, the circle one was, you know, was more gentle. I think both the circle and the diamond is saying the same thing, but I think that the diamond was a little more like it was kind of rough, you
It
know,
was more professional. It was more
Well, this was
professional.
using
Yeah.
her to kind of help her change her thoughts about her negative
There you
thinking
go.
about herself. So we
That's
want
it.
to try to turn her thinking around
Mhm.
so she would think more positively about what she's feeling about herself.
That's it. And
When
how
you're
do we
giving it
do?
straightforward, you're telling them something. She's not going to just do what you say if she's already got this implanted in her mind.
That's it. That's it. I
Yeah.
mean, that is the connotation that I was hoping to bring to light. You nailed it, Stacy. Great job there, right? But it was tricky because it had something about straightforward, right? But straightforward directives is, remember the example that I always give: go home every Tuesday and buy your wife the most beautiful bouquet of flowers and the sweetest chocolate ever, and tell her that you love her. Every Tuesday, you're gonna do that. And if they actually, the person here, I'm gonna say the husband, right? Can be something else. But anyways, if I know they will follow, that is a straightforward directive. If I know they will not follow, I would say very, very carefully, paradoxal directive. Every Tuesday, I want you to go home and tell your wife that you really don't want to be in this relationship and things are over. I would never say that. Okay, I'm just giving an exaggerating example here, right? So because then I know he will never do that, and he would go home and do the bouquet of flowers. Very dangerous technique. Only used by experts in a very difficult scenarios on when the therapy we have met for 10 weeks, we kind of fully understand each other. I kind of know you really well, and I would never say this much of a dangerous, right? I would say something else. You know, some simpler tasks, just in case if I'm wrong, it wouldn't be harmful, right? All right. But reframing here is anywhere. Reframing is really changing the client's thoughts into a more positive thing, right? In this case, it was self-perception of the patient. Okay. All right. We'll keep on moving. Sorry about the misspelled that, guys. My apologies. Just saw that. So that's denial, okay? Not Dario. All right, not Dario, denial. Great job. Guys, you know, it's no excuse. It should be written correctly, but to do a game like this takes about 5 hours, right? My team initiates it and I have to correct it. So correction alone takes about 2 hours, and still it didn't get corrected, but it is denial here, right? Because I'm looking, when I'm looking at these, I'm looking for the ones that are needs to be changed. The answers needs to be changed because of too many words. I'm not counting that the person that did it misspelled. So I have to correct each one of these, and takes about 2 hours from my end, 5 hours from my counterpart that does this game, puts together for us. All right. And we give it for free. It's okay. It suggests denial here, right? A reality of emotions, distress associated with the client's past trauma. All right. Next one. Ooh. All right. So what is reaction formation? Is the mind, way of the mind to protect itself from uncomfortable or unacceptable thoughts, feelings, and impulse by exaggerating the opposite behavior or attitude. So the example really broken down to what is reaction formation. You would have gotten this right if you knew what reaction formation is. Now let's talk about a different way to get this question right. Right? We know what is sublimation. We talked about it in the course, right? So I trust that you guys really got this question right. We know the sublimation is, let's say my son was killed by a gang member. I'm just giving a horrible example here. But now I'm so mad. I want to go there and really confront them and do harmful things. Instead, what I'm going to do, because I'm a good guy, I'm going to promote decrease in weapons, I don't know, decreasing weapons availabilities, restrictions on weapons, or way to support the community so that they can have jobs. So I'm this sublimation, I'm kind of like replacing my negative thoughts and emotions with something good. Regression, right? What is regression? Anybody?
Someone who goes back to bed with
Okay.
him.
Right, going back to old ways as well. Now, when we think about replace displacement, not replacement. Well, it is almost like a displacement. the displacement is almost like replace. But anyway, so what is displacement? Right. So go ahead, please.
Displacement is in the definition when you think about it. The word displace, like it's moving, like your aggression from something to something less threatening. You know.
Yeah, less harmful, right? So I'm going to kick the dog. The example that we gave in the course, I got fired today, and I am angry. I open the door. The dog looks at me. Well, let's say the dog did something minor, you know, and I'm just gonna kick the dog, not the door. All right. I'm going to displace my anger to someone that's less threatening. That is displacement, right? No sublimation, for sure. No sublimation, no displacement, no reaction formation. Remember, I only cover a few of them in a course because there's tons. That's one exception that I cover maybe 6 or 7 because there's so many in there, right, for you to kind of like know. But there are a few, at least 5 or 6 that I really want you guys to know, right? If you think about a little bit of a regression, right? It is the unconscious physiological maneuver where a patient reverts to a earlier or more immature stage of development in response to stress, anxiety, or a new problem, right? You can put in that sense to help you kind of like regression. I'm regressing to something earlier. Test questions love to say one thing about regression. Someone's crawling up in a fetal position. I see that a lot in a lot of tests, okay? All right, let's keep on moving because we got a few more questions. Everyone is going to get this right. 100%. Let's do it. So Theodore once said that the mind unconsciously blocks de-stressing memories, thoughts, feelings, and the desire from the conscious awareness. And that is repression, right? Repression. So unconscious, think about protections from anxiety, active blocking also, or persistence. Think about this PTSD. I like to use PTSD because there really is a lot of that repression. In the traumatic event, oftentimes they don't remember the whole scenario. They remember pieces and bits of it. That is the mind protecting the brain. So this is what Fyodor main theory evolves. Is a lot of things is about the repression, right? So it says repression is used to keep de-stress and memories, thoughts, and emotions out of the conscious awareness to protect the individual from the overwhelming de-stress associated with such memories. Sublimation involve redirecting socially acceptable. Remember the me, I guess, that had my son killed by a gang member. So now I'm going to redirect the unacceptable impulse, which is I'm angry, to a socially acceptable action and behavior. What I'm going to do, I'm going to give you class on gangs violence or stronger restriction, lobby for stronger restrictions in weapons, that does not pertain to the inability to consciously be angry and I'm going to channel that to something that's positive. Projection, it's close to displacement. I always get those two a bit sometimes confused. So when you think about project, think about one's really unacceptable thoughts and feelings, and it's kind of also projects into somebody else in a sense. Let's say if I am angry, sometimes I'll project this into my wife by saying, you are angry all the time, right? So attributing one's own feelings, that's a good example as well. All right, let's keep on moving. Ooh, never look at the answer, guys. Look at the question, answer the question without looking at the answers, okay? That's a hard one, right? Lots of choices, lots of ways to go wrong. See, guys, you need to remember AHU soccer, the acronym that we described in a course, right? So what is universality? Anybody tell me, please? Anybody remember?
I remember about similarity. So,
okay.
Yeah.
You can, yeah, I like that too. So basically, I'm not alone, right? I thought I was the only person depressed, and then I come to the group, others are too. So I feel, the bond that I'm not necessarily alone. What is altruism?
This is something that
Helping
really helpful.
others.
Helping other
Helping
members.
others.
Okay, helping others, right? And self-disclosure. What is catharsis?
Emotionally,
releasing,
expressing your emotions or whatever, you crying.
All right,
or
we'll go ahead, Mavis, as you are talking, and then we go Cara after that.
I'm just thinking of it as a person just, letting everything out, crying or breaking down or expressing it.
Okay. All right. So I always I do a lot of association for everything. If I look at the person, I can memorize 40 different names in matter of minutes because I associate everything. And then I go boom, 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 boom. I use that technique for almost everything. When I think of catharsis, I think of, and that's not to make fun of anyone, but when I think of catharsis, I think of, oh gosh, now I'm blanking. I'm thinking like I'm getting my chair here and the priest is on the other side and I'm telling, oh God, I did the most horrible scene, and I'm talking to the priest, the Catholic religion, so kind of confessing, speaking up. That brings me, that can always associate catharsis with Christian religions where, being able to speak, right? But yeah, so when you think about Yalom, we think about these things like interpersonal learning. I can learn from you all day long, right? I'm not alone on this, and nothing brings people together than a common cause, right? We are together to learn how to pass the board. They are together because it's a traumatized group of certain trauma, violence. They are together because Alcoholics Anonymous, right? So they have something, and they can say, hey, this is how I overcome this. So learning from interpersonal learning, catharsis, speaking up, right? Universality, it's more like, hey, I'm not alone. I thought I was the only one feeling depressed here. Altruism, right? And self-disclosure. Existential factor is another one. But the question did give you examples that best defines here interpersonal learning, catharsis, and group cohesiveness. I don't think group cohesion was there, but anyways. All right, so Yalom, you need to know Yalom. I can almost guarantee you, you will get a question on Yalom, even though it's only 17 questions. You don't want to miss Erickson because it's memorization. You don't want to miss Yalom because it is memorization. These are the easy questions. It will take harder work from you to memorize, but once you do, you can just put that point in your pocket. All right. Again? All right. So we got this, right? Almost. Guys, if you don't know Yalom, you will miss an easy point. Please go back to the course and review Yalom, right? There is a very good acronym. I use the acronym 10 years, you still remember those. If you take the time to memorize it, it will be helpful. I trust that you got this. Some of you guys got this answer wrong, not because of the lack of knowledge, but it was kind of fast finger. You know, it can happen. So I'll leave it at that. Okay, next. Yeah, we'll put in a lot of questions for this event. So. So if you memorize the 3 things for each one of those, you would not get this one wrong. Peace, no worries. No worry, Peace. We get you there. What are the 3 things that we need to know about family system therapy?
Self-differentiation,
triangulation,
triangulation, genogram.
Genogram, right? 3 things, guys. So that's why that white piece of paper separated from all your notes. Two white piece of papers. One is for the therapies, and the other is for the neurotransmitters, right? We put that in buckets, and we leave it on the side. Therapies, and we don't mix those buckets. We don't mix those 2 white piece of paper. Everything else can be messy, but we got to be able to look up and be like, hey, strategic, boom, boom, boom. Structural, boom, boom, boom. Systemic, boom, boom, boom. 3 things of each, so we don't miss those points. Okay. I couldn't read the comment. Family system therapy, also known as systemic family therapy. Yes, absolutely. Interchangeable. All right, next question. Oh, no, not yet. Just remember, what is the goal of family system therapy? Self-differentiation. All right, this one's kind of hard, right? It's a hard one. This is a hard one here, right? What happens?
Dr. Lopez, I regretted it when it said after rigid boundaries, which was like, it's not going to be rigid. You don't want that.
Yeah.
So already so quick, but yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there.
I clicked that one as well.
Yeah. So this was a hard question because it was very tempting to go to boundaries, right? But think about this way. What do you learn when you are on somebody else's shoes, right? You start looking at things differently, maybe not being as judgmental. So when you switch roles, be on my role and be on my seat. Let's see how that feels for you, right? So then there is, kind of modifies a little bit of the family structure and helps the other person see things differently, right? So like eye-opening. So it really helps how the roles and power dynamics within the system, family are structured that allows for potential reorganization. But it also more so of being insightful in a way, right? But a structure, sure, you got to think of boundaries. Do we want rigid boundaries? No, we don't want a rigid boundary. We want a healthy boundaries, right? What else? Yeah. All right. But don't go for rigid boundaries. That is a bad connotation. Always. There is no such thing as good rigid boundaries. Okay. But it's used on tests a lot too. It's a hard one, though. You can play out in different ways. Yeah, I can see why we got 22 and 22, right? There is not personalization or mind reading, right? So what is catastrophizing?
Is automatically like making a catastrophe of your situation and just being negative off the bat.
Okay. So let's say you are a good worker, always on time, and today you had a flat tire. And you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna be fired. I'm late 2 hours to work. Like, my patients are all waiting for me. But this has never happened. So you kind of going way more than what is needed. How would that? What would that be for all or none? Often it's called all or none thinking, all or nothing thinking. Why would this situation here is a little bit better than all or nothing?
Because they're not thinking it's the end of the world. They're just thinking like negative about the situation.
Yeah, yeah. So all or nothing is like, you know,
A safety issue too, no, because then they might just
yeah. Okay, I like that too. Or either my boss going to love me or he's going to fire me, right? So kind of like one or the other. So this is more of a catastrophizing, but I can see a little bit of all or none thinking. It's either black or white, right? I think definitely more catastrophizing, right? You know, how the person was thinking about themselves, the characteristics, the negative thoughts. No, all or nothing is like, either I'm good or I'm bad. I cannot be 80%. Good is 100%. Bad is 0. 80% is where we want to, most of us live at 80, 90, 95. But it's not 100 and it's not 0, right? So all or none. Okay. See if it give you the rank. Check the podium. Let's see if it, guys, I never done this one. I kind of want to see it. So here we go. So who got the first place? Third place, I cannot see it. Oh, what's Jerry's? Good job. Jerry's, I see you are doing a lot of good work on our WhatsApp group. Thank you for that. I see a lot of questions that you're posting. Vanessa P, you rock. And Rim. And then we have DC and Ray. Guys, all of you guys rock. I think we all learned something today, right? So the more you do, think of the scenario of little by little, your bucket's filling up. Don't give up. Fight for every question. Be in the moment. Enjoy the learning rather than being scared of the moment. You will be scared if you didn't prepare. But the way we prepare you, the way we give you the tools, the support, you still have to do the work. It's not magic, all right? Your passing rate is equivalent to the amount of questions, inquiries, and understanding that you do, okay? So please, 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 every day, set aside 1 hour a day. We have small, short videos. That's why I don't do a 6 hours lecture. I do it when it's live, and I try to take as many breaks possible. But when you are on your moment, small, short breaks, small videos. Module 1, 23 videos. This module is 27 videos, but they are small, 5 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes. The longest video is 20 minutes. It is a reason for that, right? We are seeing many cuts that help us organize the thoughts. Now, once you finish module 1, go to module 2. As you progress to module 3, stop, review the PDF, put your finger on the topic, strategic, which is now module 3, but ask yourself, do I really know this in order to go graduate to the next module? If the answer is no, don't rush. You can attend unlimited classes. You can stay in the program as long as you want, really. We have people here that have been here for a year because they haven't graduated yet. I don't put a stop on your time. You put your stop on your time, not me. I mean, it's not that I don't care. It's mean that hey, I want you to succeed. If you feel that you are about to graduate next year and you want to join the class now, by all means. I'm not going to say you can only attend one class. That's not how we work. So please do the work. Please stay on top of the game, okay? This is very different. This is paying yourself first. When you go to school, there is a deadline. There is a course that either you meet or you don't. But there is somebody that is expecting that. This is the time that no one's expecting you to test. No one, your course coordinator is probably not calling you say, hey, why haven't you tested in 2 months, right? This is paying yourself. Paying yourself first. This is for all this is school. One time in your life you said, I want to be a psychiatric mental nurse practitioner. And you are at that moment. So don't be scared of the moment. Enjoy the moment. Alrighty? Okay, so that being said, we'll go ahead, take a 10 minutes break, and then we'll come back, answer any questions that you have. Can be about the course, content about psychiatry. I'll stop this recording. We'll post this on YouTube. Any question that's in your mind, I'll help you with, or at least try to help you. All right. See you guys. 10 minutes break for everyone, and they'll be back. All right.